Before I open this chapter, before I even attempt to give shape to a memory that still lingers in the quiet corners of my mind, I need to ask you for something simple, something small. It costs you nothing but a second, yet it means everything for stories like this to reach people who might need them. Take a moment and subscribe to the channel. Not because this is a story filled with cheap thrills or dramatic twists designed to shock you. Not because it's some exaggerated tale meant to entertain for a few minutes, and then disappear into the endless stream of content. Subscribe because what you're about to hear is quieter than that. And the quiet stories, the ones that don't scream for attention, are often the ones that stay with you the longest. This is a story about something that doesn't break loudly, something that doesn't collapse in a single moment. It's about the kind of unraveling that happens slowly, subtly, almost invisibly. It's about distance, the kind that doesn't require miles, the kind that can grow between two people sitting just a few feet apart. So if you've ever felt alone while lying next to someone, if you've ever noticed a shift in someone you love, but couldn't quite explain it, if you've ever sensed that something was changing, even though everything looked the same on the surface, then stay with me. Because this story isn't just about what happened one night. It's about everything that led up to it. It should have been an ordinary evening. That's the unsettling thing about moments that change everything. They rarely announce themselves. There's no warning, no signal, no dramatic build-up. Just routine. Our house had settled into one over the years. Not the lively, unpredictable rhythm of people who are still discovering each other. But something slower, heavier. Like a song that had been played so many times it no longer stirred emotion. It simply filled space. I stood at the bedroom doorway the way I often did, one shoulder resting against the frame. A small pause before entering. It wasn't something I had consciously decided to do. It had become a habit, a hesitation, as if some part of me already knew what waited inside, and needed a moment to prepare for it. My wife sat on the edge of the bed. Her posture curved forward slightly, not defeated, not exactly, but tired in a way that seemed deeper than physical exhaustion. The soft glow of her phone lit her face, a pale blue light. It smoothed her features, softened them, almost made her look distant, like someone I used to know. There was something strangely familiar about that glow. It reminded me of candlelight. We used to light candles. I know that sounds insignificant, small, almost trivial, but there was a time when those small things mattered to us. We believed in creating moments, simple dinners that felt meaningful, soft music playing in the background, conversations that stretched long after the plates were empty. Back then, we didn't just share space, we shared presence. Now silence had moved in between us, and silence, when it lingers too long, stops being empty. It becomes something else, something that breathes, something that grows. I cleared my throat gently, not to interrupt, just to announce myself, to say, I'm here. Hey, I said, keeping my voice steady, balanced, not too eager, not too distant, just normal. You coming to bed? She didn't look up. Her fingers kept moving across the screen. Careful, she murmured. It wasn't harsh. It wasn't angry, but it carried weight. Not a warning. More like a boundary I hadn't realized I crossed. And then came the phrase I had started to expect. I'm too tired. 3 words. Simple. Reasonable. Impossible to argue with. What do you say to exhaustion? How do you challenge something that sounds so valid? You don't. You nod. You accept it. You tell yourself it's not personal. But repetition has a way of changing meaning. What starts as explanation slowly begins to feel like rejection. I nodded that night too. Okay, I said quietly. I turned off the lamp and slid under the covers. The mattress dipped slightly beneath me. I faced the wall, staring at the faint outline of a picture frame I couldn't quite see in the dark. And I waited. For footsteps. For movement. For the subtle shift in the bed that would mean she was coming to join me. That would mean something still remained. But instead, I heard her footsteps moving away. Toward the hallway. Toward another room. And in the darkness, I found myself asking a question I had been avoiding for months. How did we get here? Morning didn't bring clarity. It rarely does. Morning brought routine. Coffee brewed in silence. Cabinets opened and closed. Two people moving around each other with quiet efficiency, but no real connection. We weren't arguing. We weren't fighting. And somehow, that made it worse. Around 9, the doorbell rang. Jenna. My wife's best friend since college. Some people have a presence that changes the atmosphere of a room the moment they enter it. Jenna was one of those people. Her energy arrived before she did. Light. Effortless. She stepped into the kitchen with familiarity, setting her phone down casually, leaning against the counter as if she had always belonged there. And then something happened. Something small but undeniable. My wife laughed. Not politely. Not out of obligation. A real laugh. Full. Open. Unrestrained. It stopped me mid-sip. Because I hadn't heard that sound in a long time. I stood there watching my wife become someone I remembered. And a thought crept in. Quiet, uncomfortable, impossible to ignore. Why was it so easy with her? Why did the exhaustion disappear in Jenna's presence, but settle heavily when it came to me? I tried to push the thought away. Told myself I was overthinking. But doubt doesn't come from nowhere. It grows in the absence of reassurance. At one point, Jenna looked at me. Our eyes met briefly. There was something in her expression. Curiosity, awareness, maybe even understanding. It made me uneasy. Not because she had done anything wrong, but because I felt seen. And I hadn't realized how much I missed that. She stayed for dinner. The atmosphere shifted. Wine was poured. Music played softly. Conversations flowed more easily than they had in months. My wife talked more. Smiled more. She told stories from our early days. Memories I hadn't thought about in years. For a moment, it felt like something had been restored. And I made a mistake. I felt hopeful. Because hope, in fragile situations, has a way of making disappointment sharper. After dinner, my wife stretched. I'm going to head upstairs, she said. I'm exhausted. That word again. Exhausted for me. But somehow not for everything else. She left. And the house changed instantly. The silence returned. But it wasn't empty. It felt charged. Jenna began helping with the dishes. Water running. Plates clinking softly. Then she said it. She's been pulling away from you, hasn't she? I froze. It wasn't accusation. It wasn't gossip. It was observation. And I didn't have an answer ready. I see it, she continued gently. You look lonely. Lonely. That word hit differently. Because loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling unseen. Even when someone is right beside you. And before I realized it, I was talking. Not everything. But enough. About the distance. The silence. The way things had changed. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. And sometimes being heard is more powerful than anything else. You deserve to be seen, she said quietly. Something shifted inside me then. Not desire. Recognition. She leaned back slightly. I'm not tired, she added. The words weren't suggestive. But they lingered. Upstairs was my wife. The person I had chosen. The life I had built. And across from me was someone who acknowledged what I had been trying to ignore. Two truths colliding. Before she left, Jenna paused at the door. You deserve more than this, she said. Don't forget that. And then she was gone. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of temptation. Because of clarity. There's a line in relationships, a quiet one. The line between patience and avoidance. And I realized I had been standing on it for a long time. The easy version of this story would end differently. With a mistake. With regret. But that's not what happened. What happened was harder. The next morning, I spoke. Honestly. I feel alone, I said. The words felt unfamiliar. But they were real. She looked surprised. Defensive at first. But as I kept talking, not accusing, not blaming, something shifted. She listened. Really listened. And for the first time, she admitted something she hadn't said before. Her exhaustion wasn't about me. It was everything else. Pressure. Stress. The feeling of failing quietly. I didn't realize I was shutting you out, she said. And in that moment she looked at me. Not past me. Not through me. At me. We didn't fix everything that day. There was no dramatic resolution. But something returned. Effort. And sometimes, that's where healing begins. Here's what I learned. Temptation doesn't start with attraction. It starts with absence. With silence. With neglect. Jenna didn't break anything. She revealed what was already fragile. And once something is revealed, you have a choice. Ignore it. Or face it. If you've stayed this long, maybe something in this story felt familiar. Maybe you felt that distance. Maybe you've been the one pulling away. Or the one left wondering why. Either way, don't wait. Don't wait for silence to become permanent. Say something. Before someone else notices what's missing. And if this story made you pause, even for a moment, subscribe. Because sometimes, the quiet stories are the ones that matter most.